Okay, can we stand for the pledge of allegiance, please?
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we remain standing? As council, we have a magnitude large amount of authority. We have the higher power to give governance and direction. And the moment silence, please. Roll call.
Jesse here. Ron here.
Over here.
Here.
Darrell here.
Jeff here.
I have a motion to approval to January 20 minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Presentations. Noel Lyman. If I pronounced it. Okay.
I just referred to you guys for. I also want to apologize for anything I did. Rude, it's just that color. But I know speaking here today won't stop at the data center. The fact of the matter is the data center is going to be developed where people in the comment. With that being said, I do believe that there needs to be true transparency on the side of safety, risks, and proper processes put in place to ensure the project does not cause more damage than necessary for not only the community, but also for the surrounding environment, the economic impact, and the impact that this data center will have on the electric grid and the water community. First, EdgeConX's largest fully operational facility in Dublin, Ireland. This facility has been fully operational at 170 megawatts, roughly, of power since 2023. But as of 2024 to 2025, data centers in Ireland have consumed roughly over 20% of the nation's electricity. Due to this, a de facto moratorium has been set in place on any new large-scale data center connections in Dublin, Ireland region until 2028. So this was enacted by the Gear Grid and its CRU. This poses the question of what is the expected impact that all of the upcoming data centers pose on Ohio's power grid. Though Ohio's power grid is much more advanced than that of Ireland, with multiple data centers being connected yearly, what can be expected as far as loss of electricity rates and potential outages in national power. These facilities have also caused threat to derail the nation's decarbonization goals due to on-site generators which increase local pollution. These are the same generators that they plan to use in the upcoming years. Currently, we're trying 10 years worth of research to support the evidence of total environmental safety and operation to this scale. Unless a VLD or zero liquid discharge system is being used, there will be water discharge from the data. In a standard closed-loop system, there is what is called a blow-down or bleed-down process. There are two sides to a closed-loop system: a server-side cooling circuit and an external heat rejection, which will be the cooling towers or an evaporative system to dump the loose heat out. If there is an evaporative heat rejection component, then the water being used will gradually concentrate the dissolved minerals and chemicals. Within these systems, these components are necessary to ensure operation runs smoothly. But when the water evaporates, the dissolved minerals and chemicals come out, causing the water to become hard and corrosive. Too many minerals lead to spalling, a reduction in heat transfer, corrosion, biofilm buildup, and stress. In order for the system to continue operating smoothly, the blowdown process occurs. This is where the old minerals and chemicals are removed from the system at high concentrations within small amounts of water. These minerals and chemicals include biocides, corrosion inhibitors, and heavy metals. This water is then filtered by the facility and then released into either recyclable water or waste management system. The issue lies with the fact that if these materials are not fully filtered at our facility, these materials will be passed on to waste management facilities that are not designed to filter them. They run the risk of bioaccumulation and contamination. Biocides such as chlorine dioxide and bromine are designed to kill organisms. If released, they can kill fish, supply plants, and beneficial microorganisms, including the bacteria that's used in the treatment. There also runs the risk of a secondary toxicity and contamination in which these chemicals can react with other substances in natural water, which adds to potentially creating even more toxic compounds. If water from the waste management systems are released into areas of irrigation and biocides and elevated contaminants can damage crops, reduce growth, and increase plant mortality. When combined with agricultural runoff, it worsens water quality as well. These also disrupt natural microbial communities, which are crucial for the decomposition of organic matter. These facilities often take water that is already high in nitrates from farming activity. After evaporation, the remaining water contains nitrate levels over 4 times the original concentration, exceeding safety regulations for water and wastewater systems. And though wastewater systems are designed to filter nitrates, they're not designed to filter these high concentrations. Corrosion inhibitors like phosphate, molybdenate, and various biocides are used in evaporative form systems in order to prevent pipe degradation, but when discharged can lead to toxicity to aquatic life and potential groundwater contamination. Though phosphate can be filtered by synthetic wastewater systems, molybdates and biocides are contaminated. All of this is just scientific. This does not include the potential for the economic effects, such as an increase on home. Though this may not affect all, Asheville is an old. Many residents have either lived here their entire life or moved here to slow down and be in a more affordable community. Those who are retired or on fixed incomes are going to be the biggest hit in the property tax rate. Then what? They can't afford to leave, but it's too expensive for them. What can be expected from the town or the facility if this does have a negative impact on the property tax rate? A few further questions we need to ask is, what is the maximum daily and annual blowdown volume? Which biocide conversion inhibitors will be used? And is a CLE being considered? If not, what is the reason? The data center is happening, but what we need to do now is ensure that we're fully prepared to deal with the outcomes of that. Through implementing certain regulations and agreements ourselves and ensuring our systems are able to withstand the upcoming changes.
Thank you.
How about you? I don't think it's me. We just need to- Okay, it was ordinance for the third reading. 126-01. We have the motion for the third reading of this. Motion for reading. Second. It's an ordinance creating a municipal electricity of the amount of Asheville Public Forum. This is third reading. So if you have any questions, go to discussion, go to vote. Roll call, Jesse? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Motion passes. Second is a resolution for third reading. Second, petition for annexation of 485.95 acres from Harrison Township to the village of Mansfield and declaring an emergency.
Motion for third reading.
Second. Roll call for question.
Do you have any questions that we need to discuss? Does anybody have anything?
Okay. Roll call, Jesse?
No.
The motion. get it. Next one to me, resolution for first reading for period 2026. Motion, have a motion for the first reading, 2026 resolution.
So
Resolution selecting first reading of the Madison County's program review committee. Motion to accept first reading. Everyone read it. Resolution for first reading, 2026. Motion for first reading. A resolution concerning the mayor's appointment of Christopher Homestead as acting police chief to the county emergency. Questions? I think this needs to be passed as an emergency so that the department actually has an active chief. We need a motion to waive second, third reading. Councilman,
I'll make a motion to waive the second, third readings of the ordinance.
that's a resolution.
The ordinance subject to adopt the ordinance resolution. 03-26 as an emergency.
Second. All in favor to motion passes. Yes. We have another resolution for the first reading. 04-2026. Have a motion for the first reading. Yes. Great. Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to vote in passage. 03-2026.
Second. In favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 04-2026, motion for fourth reading, please.
So moved.
It's a resolution accepting the bid of ABC Piping Company and authorizing the board administrator and fiscal officer to execute an agreement with ABC Piping Company to construct a new water treatment plant and declare this emergency. Clerk office, motion, please. Motion for second reading, second reading.
I'll roll here. Motion, I move to adopt the ordinance resolution 04-2026 to waive the second and third reading.
Second time, first, all in favor?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion that we vote. 04-2026.
Favor?
Yep.
Okay. I need, Devin now for material piping service, water line repairs, main, and Warren Street, in the amount of $22,000. Building excavated, circulated, water line installation, Church Street, in the amount of $46,425. And garden excavating, incorporated, curb, gutter, and underground installation, Bruce Street, in the amount of $61,039.12. We don't have to do these individually, do we? Okay. So, motion to favor is given out to the room.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Audience comments. Do I have any papers? Okay. Jones says she has a question. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Amber Jones, 11 Ashton Drive. Good evening, council. I have a few questions regarding the operation and personnel decisions within the Asheville Police Department. Why was the newest and least experienced officer placed in a role as temporary captain? What criteria were used for that decision? Why does the department currently employ an officer with a criminal record? What is Asheville's policy for hiring officers with prior legal disciplinary background? Why has the most senior lead officer been reassigned tonight and weekend? What operational change is driving the change? Are our officers being scheduled and allocated efficiently based on actual calls for service? Several residents, not just myself, are concerned about the treatment of Officer Donnie Main. Why does it appear he's been punished for taking action on vesting? What is the current policy on sick time? And past officers were able to transfer time. Does that policy still exist? The questions that I have, they are great rhetorical questions that I would like to follow up on at the next council meeting. But I do want to say, to close the statement, Asheville citizens do deserve openness and transparency, even when a subject matter is uncomfortable. This isn't just where we live, it is our home. Clear communication builds trust, and we're just simply asking for honesty.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I step up and give you guys your Thank you. Thank you.
Andy Davis.
I was hoping I could say, my name is Karen, and I live on Long Street, but well, most of you do not know me. Most of you do not know who I am, and if you do, you probably know me as Daryl's wife, who's the Before I was Daryl's wife, I was the mom of the kid who would say by the toddler near grade grade time in February 2010. You might also know me as the Jersey commercial hoppers. I prefer to call them displays of passion and compulsion. I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize to council for not including my idea as a resident, which I realize is good leadership as well, because we pretty much ignored these council meetings up until now, and that is to all the great service. Hold y'all accountable and make you show up and give you an audio. I believe that because residents of the village were not engaged in the process, this set a situation where there isn't any interaction between council and residents. We can become faithful people to you, or it can be easy to assume that if there's no participation, then you're fine with all of those village being operated. I do not believe anybody up there is using the facts or whatever people are saying. I want to believe for all the trustworthy people, and that's why I voted for them. Everyone is talking about the small town feel of our footprint community disappearing, but I'd like to share my experience. Given some of the community members' comments, it seems like we have to give our residential resume to qualify ourselves to have an opinion on anything. But while I am not technically a lifelong resident of Asheville, I have lived in Asheville most of my life. I did it with 1978. My memory was a little fuzzy because I was 23 years old, but I lived in a little two-story house in Jefferson Avenue. I remember this specifically because my dad got stuck on the railroad tracks trying to drive on them. I think at the time they had a special, I don't know why he thought he could do that, but my mom was pretty mad. I don't know why I remember it either, but it's just amazing what kids do remember. I don't remember, sorry, I don't recall much of my childhood at all. The memories that I do have were the times that I lived in Asheville. It's when I felt safe. That was what I felt like my community would be. My mom took me to Dr. Slowinski's office for some reason. Seriously, I could not bear weight on my right foot for about a month. I told my mom I got stung by a bee when I was running in the backyard. Turns out my foot was actually broken. It was a very traumatic month because I got into a lot of trouble for acting like a baby because my bee thing on the top of my foot should not prevent me from walking for a month. That's going through. I couldn't tell them I had no idea. To my knowledge, Dr. Slowinski was actually the first medical professional who said anything to my mother about how I was being taken care of. After a separate incident where I had a week-long stay at Children's Hospital, and I home in Margaret, my parents weren't allowed to be there. But we moved away shortly after that. Later in 1980, we lived on Zigzag Drive in those apartments that everybody complains about. One I was living in is actually missing because it was torn down. But you know what people say about that. We lived there for a very short time again. And I went to Asheville Elementary. It's hard for me to keep track of. Because between first grade and eighth grade, I went to 20 schools, and that was 22 zero. 7 schools in first grade, 7 elementary schools in first grade. I started keeping track in the fourth, and I know this is rambling, and I'm sorry, but I have a point of comment. We moved around a lot for various reasons. My family actually moved back here another time without me in 1988, and they were living in a trailer park of Duval Road, I think it was called Man. But to say I was relieved to be able to attend high school all 4 years at one location is an understatement. Graduating from high school, imagine I'm here. We still moved a lot though. Just to give you an idea of my background, the majority of the homes I lived in as a kid have been torn down due to dilapidated conditions. Asheville was one of the few places I felt with it. It reminded me of Mayberry. It doesn't feel like that anymore though. I know, I'm almost done, I promise. A lot of my time was taken with this response that I didn't meant to be in my thing, I'm sorry. Due to moving around so much as a kid, I wanted to make sure my children had a stable place to live, and I moved to Asheville in 2002. 2011, I was able to purchase my first home. And given some of the things I've shared here in the details, I don't care to mention. Specifically, that was really not supposed to happen to me. I was not a person who was supposed to be alive in my 20s or whatever. But I got approved anyway. And it wasn't from an imaginary settlement for my son's accident. We didn't get involved or anything like that, like it's supposed to be fine. We tried very hard to be involved in the community, like I said before, not very much. It's really difficult to do here because people always kind of think that they know, and even the state center process is difficult because everybody makes references to this farm or that farm or this family farm. I don't know who people are, so it's really difficult now.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you for not making me copy of JR as well.
Thank you. Taylor.
Hi, council members, and mayor, thank you very much. My name is Kelly Spriggs. I reside at 11370 Gillenhurst Road. And tonight I came all prepared with AI help speech to ask and urge you to vote no against the annexation. But I think on behalf of the many red shirts and people here, I can say thank you for voting no on the annexation application tied to the Connex Data Center. Tammy talked a little bit about growing up in Asheville, and I grew up in Asheville. I was born here, even though I reside out of town. I grew up, I was born, lived in a house that Dave Rainey ultimately lived in, which ultimately Darrell Blake has a house on that property now, over the corner of East Station Street. I used to visit Grandpa Glenn. I then moved over to Jefferson Avenue. And at that point, that was the furthest west our village went, was Jefferson Avenue. When Asheville came up with this limited industrial district, Reynolds Metals and Columbus Industries were outside of town. And since then, our town has grown, and we know it's inevitable, it's going to change. And residential properties now are creeping closer and closer to that limited industrial area. So I think it's important that Asheville take a look at your zoning map, determine what you want to use, what you want that to look like. Because when that was all developed years ago, again, Jefferson Avenue was the furthest west our residents went. But I'd like to take time to talk about one thing that the mayor indicated in the last meeting at the community forum about the CETA land use plan and the updates to that. That was, Asheville has been involved in that land use update since April 1st of 2024. And that resolution 05-2024 that states the village of Asheville, Ohio, wishes to participate in the update to the 2013 Northgate Alliance Strategic Land Use Plan. And also noting that P3, Pitway Progress and Partnership, is updating the Strategic Land Use Plan. That was motioned by a current sitting council member, voted on, was all in favor of that resolution, including you, Mr. Mayor, and it passed unanimously. So if you haven't been hearing updates from your village administrator, then perhaps that might be something to look into. People sitting in those meetings and negotiating on your behalf of annexation boundaries. But what I wanted, again, much of this no longer applies. So, but what I do want to get back to is talking about EdgeConnect, the data center, and some of the, what I would call threats that I heard in their presentation, talking about the public assistant, whether it was here, going off of whether there was annexation tied to that or not. But I want to ground the discussion in our own local experience, because I think it does have something profoundly important. Asheville small businesses have already demonstrated what real community growth looks like. In the last 10 years, I can name over a dozen local small businesses that have opened right here in Asheville, from restaurants and salons, boutique service providers, child care centers, and specialty shops. Many of these businesses took vacant or aging buildings that had been sitting empty and brought them back to life through renovation, reinvestment, and sweat equity. They created far more jobs collectively than the data warehouse, according to Asheville. They generate consistent local tax revenue, support local schools, sponsor our youth sports, employ young people, and keep economic value circulating right here in home. And not one of them received a single payment. They did it the right way. They invested in Asheville because they believe in Asheville. And now contract that with what's being proposed here, a multinational hyperscale operator seeking to annex this land and requesting a 30-year full tax forgiveness while offering fewer jobs than many of our local businesses provide to our own. And I want to say, in every public meeting held on this annexation and the data warehouse, not a single resident who come forward to speak in support of it. Not one. Residents show up, they've spoken, and they've written, but they have not told you to support it. Thank you.
Good evening, Austin Klein, zoning inspector of the township. You all know my stance on this. I'm here to clarify some things. These rumors I've heard going around on Facebook through the general public and all of you. This guy was up here just a minute ago. He couldn't really give you an answer on what would happen if you did not annex. I'm here to give you the answer. Nothing. Nothing. Nothing would have happened with that land. It would have continued to grow corn and beans until we either got together with the 6119 Water District, which I know you've all been invited to, and it became, housing or something down the road that benefited the community. When I say the community, that's Asheville, South Bluefield, Harrison Township, that's everybody. And we had that plan, and that was all part of the annexation agreement. That's a long time down the road, that's a lot of money, that's down the road. But nothing is what happened, absolutely nothing. And all the Facebook warriors and all the people sitting at home that are concerned that Harrison Township wanted to take money for themselves and pocket it and do whatever. It's totally, it's fake. I just wanted to let you know that there's your answer. Absolutely nothing. It would have stayed beautiful, and that would have been it. So I just urge anybody on Facebook or council or anybody who wants to know what's happening in Harrison Township or what our thoughts and plans are, let us know. And if you got comments, questions, or concerns, feel free to call the source direct.
Any council committee reports? Notice that the tax department reports the income tax. Revenue from the end of last year up to the end of this year has increased about $25,000. Part of that is due to delinquents that haven't paid taxes and finally caught up. If you don't know about the past delinquent tax, please call the office, because their time is coming up. Appreciate Martina and what she's putting on this. Is there any other business for council? Motion to close the meeting.
I do have council comments. You should have all received this packet. This is the information for the Asheville Business Association. I sit on that board with the political group. In years past, it was Randy that helped us see until he left us. So I sit on the board there. So this is information that everything the Asheville Business Association did in 2025. Our mission statement, what we're about, what we're doing. Just wanted to give you guys an update on it. And then in closing, I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Obviously, we had a very hard decision in front of us this evening. That being said, I look forward to working with our local leaders in South Bluefield, Harrison Township to hopefully get back on track with things. And I hope we can see all of you going forward.
I just want to say the growth is coming, and it's up to not just this group, but other groups within the district, Harrison Township. One thing that does scare me that I found out the other day, Columbus a week ago held their long-term plan, and they own land right across from the quarry up there, and that's in Harrison Township, and they are putting a wastewater treatment plant. So I just hope everybody understands that's coming. So that's why I kind of more in favor of getting a wall as far north as we can for Asheville. Because Columbus could be right down, knocking on our door. We already have water and services on 762 on this side. It would not take much for them to provide the services, and then they can control what goes in there, not Asheville. That's all I have to say.
I would echo those comments. For me, the annexation issue is a separate issue from the data center. What I'm concerned about is people who do not reside in Pickaway County, don't care about Pickaway County, and kind of control over what happens.
I haven't said a whole lot about this, but I'm going to say a whole lot about this right now. I am the longest serving member on this board. It's been 12 years, and 10 of them were pretty boring. They were, in fact, 10 years were really, really boring. The last two have been interesting. But we all say this. We all say this, but I speak from this. 67 years old. I've lived no place, but I consider myself a resident of the state of Ohio. I consider myself a resident of Pickwick County. I also consider myself a resident of Harrison Township. And I think one of the things that our commissioners did years and years ago, which was very prescient and very, very, looking forward, was the creation of the JED to kind of create a buffer for Columbus. Because I tell people all the time, people say, I don't want to live in Columbus. I've known growing up I live in Columbus. I can drive to Broad behind 25 minutes. I mean, I enjoy the things. I always tell people when I for a brief time I worked in Columbus, I always tell them when I hit the county line, my heart rate drops and I feel better. I just feel better. This is home. But what I want to say is I think just like the JED, the cooperative agreement between the county, Harrison Township, South Winfield, Asheville is vital in order to, we're never going to keep them completely 100% out. We sure as heck controls of things. We can sure call our own shots. We can be flies anyway, but then we can, we can do what we do. So I think it's imperative that we work with the townships and Bloomfield on the CETA agreement and everything. I just think we either hang together or we hang separately, guys. I mean, they'll pay us off. They'll pay us off. And we can't have it. I told my wife tonight, before I came over, I said, this is probably going to be doing a meeting, I'm going to be really popular. I want to go out the back door. But I haven't said a whole lot about it, and I just wanted to listen. And I've always told you folks, you don't know what we're thinking. You really don't. I respect every single vote up here. I respect everybody's perspective and their opinions, and they look at it this way. The only perspective I can have is mine. And the only perspective I can have is that. And I've always felt like Harrison Township and South Bloomfield and Asheville, we can do so much more together than we can separately. So much more together than we can separately. So I from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you all for doing this, for showing up, for showing out. We've still got work to do. Okay, we may have just said tonight that we want to go this direction, but there's work to do, and it's hard work. And I hope that you're there with us and you walk through it with us, and we'll try to get the best possible situation we can and in the best possible thing we can. But take this from an old resident of Asheville. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
That's well, thank everyone for coming, and hope you come back. We've probably had more people last several meetings than I had in 10 years. It's the biggest thing in Asheville ever since the 32 one was put in. This is huge. I'm a resident here now for 60 years. We do the best that we can.
Well, there's not a whole lot more that I can add that's unique than what the council member said, but I'll weigh in. I agree with what a lot of my fellow council members said. And first off, I want to say that everyone's decision tonight is very complex and layered, and it is different, I would say, when you're sitting in the chair and trying to weigh all of the factors and all the what ifs and what could happen and what could not happen and all the externalities that we don't know what will happen next necessarily, right? The one thing I am sure of is that it is not the end of history for Asheville. I think it's felt like that at times, that one way or the other, this is going to be the end of history for Asheville, but it's not. I agree with Dave that we need to work together in northern Pickwick County, because I agree with Ron that Columbus is coming, and they do own that land on Wigan Road in 23. And there are things that our county and our commissioners have done, like our annexation moratorium agreements, that buy us time, but it's just time, and growth is coming. So we can't be no to everything, right? That is important. We can't be no to everything. One factor I will say that weighed in my decision is that in my line of work, my wife's company works with chief information officers, chief technology officers for
globally, biggest companies in the world. One of the things that we say is that the pace of change and innovation will never be slower than it is today. And it'll never be slower. And for me, I also think about what is coming in the future that we don't know about that might provide a lot of long-term jobs and economic stability for our community. That if we essentially go all in on one project, that we don't have that opportunity anymore. And speaking with Walmart commissioners, that's whatever your feelings are on the Andrew project. That's sort of what happened there. If they would have said yes to every project that came to the JED, there would be no Andrew. But again, I think it's try to have have some grace for all the council members. There's a lot that we're weighing and trying to focus on, and there are a lot of decisions that will be coming up. And again, thank you all for your continued engagement, and I hope that continues. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could add a couple of things, I think as a community, not only Asheville and Harrison Township and all of Tates Valley, we have probably one of the best school systems in the state. And we have to have some form of an attitude change. They're not out there wasting money just for the heck of it, and they need support also. And the village is in the same state of being, we can't live on yesterday's dollar and provide updated services. And we need the help of this community, and the district needs the help. And I would just ask you to think about that and what you want. The school system probably is the driver for a lot of people to come. We appreciate all of you being here and expressing your opinions, and we just have to move forward now. And hope to have a motion to close the meeting. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.